The Untold Story: How My Cousin Took Everything From Me and Left Me Alone at 25. It all started one gray morning when the phone rang, shattering the quiet of an otherwise normal day. It was 8 a.m. I never thought a single call could twist my entire life upside down. My cousin Derek said he needed help, an odd request for someone who'd always been a step ahead in life. Little did I know that phone call would unravel everything I held dear. The shadows of betrayal cast long that day, as a feeling of dread crept over me like a billowing storm cloud. Everything had been fine until then. I was happily living in the cozy little apartment I called home. My job at the local cafe was steady, my friends laughed loudly at my dumb jokes, and I felt like life was just beginning. But the tension tightened around my chest as I thought about Derek. He had this strange charm, a darker side that lurked just beneath the surface. Something in his voice that morning sent chills racing down my spine. The first strange element hit me when I arrived at his place. The door stood slightly ajar, swinging slightly as if beckoning me inside. And when I stepped over the threshold, there it was, the heavy, stale air charged with whispered secrets and the faint echo of laughter. It didn't make sense. I could see Derek pacing in the living room, his eyes darting like a hawk. Something was off. The shadows behind him seemed to waver, almost alive, lurking in corners, waiting for the right moment to strike. My heart raced. Why was he so anxious? As he finally turned to face me, a sinister grin spread across his face. "You'll never guess what I found," he said, holding up a small, unassuming box. My heartbeat quickened. It felt like the stuffed toy dinosaur from our childhood, a symbol of innocence now tainted. His fingers trembled, revealing that whatever was in that box held some dark power over him. "I can't explain it yet, but trust me, you'll want to see this. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." My mind raced as I took a step closer, the air crackling with energy. What was inside that box? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the house, reverberating through the walls like a thunderclap. My stomach knotted as I glanced at Derek. His face had gone pale, and the laughter that hung in the air evaporated, replaced by an eerie silence. "What was that?" I whispered, my heart thudding in my ears. Derek's expression shifted. I saw his eyes widen in horror. "I don't know, but we need to check it out," he replied, his voice trembling. He reached for the box, clutching it like a lifeline. I felt a pit in my stomach, a sense that this moment would change everything. As we stepped deeper into the house, I could hear my own breath growing shallow, like I was plunging into unknown depths. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows creeping closer, swallowing the light. I didn't understand what was happening, only that the next few moments would reveal truths I wasn't ready to face. The air felt heavier, charged with secrets just waiting to be uncovered. What was inside that box, and what lurked in the shadows? With every step, the question loomed larger. What had Derek gotten us into? The silence was deafening as we moved cautiously down the dimly lit hallway. Each creak of the floorboards under my feet echoed like a warning bell, sending chills racing up my spine. Derek held the box tightly, his knuckles white against the dark wood. I could see his breath clouding in front of him, a sign of the tension hanging thick in the air. "What do you think it was?" I finally asked, trying to pierce the heavy veil of silence. Derek shook his head, his eyes darting side to side. "I don't know. Just stay close to me." As we reached the back of the house, a shiver coursed through me. The bathroom door stood slightly ajar. Another creak rang out, louder this time, seeming to come from within. I hesitated, staring at the faint sliver of darkness that pooled from the doorway. What could possibly be waiting for us there? Derek leaned in, nudging the door open with a cautious push. "Hello?" he called, his voice trembling. It felt like a ghostly call into the unknown. No reply. Just the soft sound of dripping water echoed through the tiny space. The faint glow from the window highlighted a dark shape huddled in the corner of the bathtub. I leaned forward, straining to make out what it was. My heart pounded in my chest. "Derek," I whispered. "What is it?" He stepped forward, peering over my shoulder. The moment his eyes locked onto that shape, his expression morphed from anxiety to sheer horror. "Oh God, no!" he shouted as he stumbled backward, nearly dropping the box. Suddenly I understood. It wasn't just fear I was feeling. It was a pang of deep, gut-wrenching dread. It struck me like a fist to the stomach. The figure in the tub was someone I recognized, a girl from our neighborhood. A bright smile and boundless energy. But here she was, lifeless, her eyes staring blankly up at the ceiling. "What the hell happened?" I gasped, glancing at Derek, now shaking like a leaf. He took a breath, managing to mutter, "I didn't mean for this to happen." That sent shockwaves through me. "What do you mean? You knew her?" "I didn't know it would go this far. I swear." Panic twisted his features. "I found that box when I was looking for something. It led me to her. So this was a result of whatever is in that box?" His face paled further as he repeated, "I'm sorry. I thought I could control it." I stumbled back, pressing against the wall, as reality crumpled around me. There was something beyond comprehension between us, something darker than I ever imagined. He didn't look like my cousin anymore. He looked like a stranger manipulated by forces he didn't understand. As dread settled like a thick fog, another noise disrupted the stillness, a sharp, urgent banging from the front door, breaking the eerie calm that filled the air. Derek's eyes widened. "We have to hide. They can't find us." "Who?" I asked, urgency tearing at my insides, but instead of answering, he darted back into the hallway, box clutched tightly in his hands. I followed, panic racing through me. What had we stumbled into? As we ducked into the darkened dining room, I could hear the door splintering under pressure. It resonated like a countdown. I turned to Derek, questions bubbling up in my throat, but I could see by his expression that answers wouldn't come now. Because it wasn't just about the girl anymore. It was about survival hours. The door finally gave way, hinges screaming as figures burst into the house. "Get down!" Derek hissed, pulling me into the shadows. My mind spun with thoughts of the box, the girl, and what lay beyond that door. But in the chaos, one question rose above the rest. What had Derek awakened? And could we escape before it was too late? The darkness enveloped us like a cloak as we pressed ourselves against the wall. I could barely breathe, every inhale filled with dread. Shadows danced at the edges of the dimly lit room, moving as the figures stormed in. I could see their silhouettes, 3 of them, maybe 4, stalking through the entryway like wolves on a hunt. "Stay quiet." Derek's whisper cut through the tension, sharp and urgent. His eyes flitted toward the box, still clutched tight in his grasp. It felt as if every heartbeat echoed in the silence, a rhythmic drum that could betray us at any moment. The men moved through the house with an unsettling confidence, kicking aside debris, their boots heavy on the floor. "Check the kitchen. She's got to be here somewhere," one of them barked, his voice gruff and thick with menace. My heart raced. They were looking for us. But why? What did Derek get us into? A wave of panic washed over me, tightening the knot in my stomach. "Derek, who are they?" I hissed through clenched teeth. "I don't know. Just stay low. We'll figure this out." His voice trembled, betraying his bravado. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, a mix of fear and anger swirling inside me. "You brought this on us. What was in that box? What did you unleash?" "I told you I didn't know it would come to this." The frantic edge to his voice made my skin crawl. We could hear the men stomping about, voices rising and falling, a stark reminder that time was slipping through our fingers like sand. Suddenly, one of the figures stopped. "Did you hear that?" he said, straining to listen. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel every hair on my body stand on end. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I didn't dare move. But then a loud crash came from the bathroom. The intruders whipped around in unison, eyes fixed on the source of the sound. I barely dared to breathe. "What was that?" Another voice growled, and frustration tinged his tone. "Maybe it's just the damn wind." "No, something's off," the first one pressed, edging closer to our hidden sanctuary. My heart pounded louder in my ears, drowning the room in an unbearable drumbeat. I stole a glance at Derek, and his expression twisted in fear as he looked at the door. They were inches away, and the box remained a weight on his lap, a ticking time bomb of potential horrors. I felt the walls closing in, and in that moment, the reality of it all washed over me like ice. It wasn't just my life that was in danger. There was a darkness that threatened to claim everything around me, binding me to Derek's fate. We had to escape or risk facing whatever evil lurked beyond our sanctuary. Suddenly, the door swung open and a figure filled the frame. A man with sharp features stepped inside, scanning the room. Instinct kicked in. Run. I didn't register my own voice until the word escaped my lips. Derek scrambled to his feet, the box slipping from his fingers and crashing to the floor. No, he shouted, but I was already in motion, darting towards the back door, an escape route filled with uncertainty. Behind me, the sound of the box shattering echoed like a gunshot. The men shouted as chaos erupted. Get them! I heard one bark, but fear propelled my feet. I burst through the door into the night, the cool air stabbing my lungs like a fresh wound. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Where would we run? What lay ahead? Our only chance was to momentarily slip away from them, if only until we figured out what Derek had unleashed. But each step felt heavy, weighed down by the dread that we were already too late. Suddenly, the sound of cracking branches echoed from the woods. It was a chilling reminder that our escape was fraught with even greater dangers. What had we awakened in the darkness, and would we survive the night? The woods loomed ahead, an ocean of darkness, branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The night air was thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth and pine, and every rustle sent my heart into a frenzy. I shot a glance back, breathless, panic twisting my gut as the sounds of shouting men echoed behind us. Derek, keep up! I gasped, my feet pounding against the soft ground. I could hear his hurried breaths behind me, the clatter of his footsteps mixing with the violent shouts of their pursuers. We can't keep running like this, he shouted back, his voice tinged with desperation. We have to find somewhere safe. Somewhere safe. The thought felt like a cruel joke. I had no idea what awaited us, but I knew that the only thing waiting behind us was danger. With a surge of adrenaline, I veered to the left, darting into the tree's embrace. The dense brush welcomed me, hiding me like a child in a game of hide and seek. I glanced over my shoulder again. Derek had followed, his face pale and drawn, fear etched into his features. Where do we go? He panted, trying to stifle the panic in his voice. What was in that box? I don't know. I hissed, exasperated. You brought it, you should have answers. A sudden crash of branches snapped my attention back to the path we had left. They're close, I warned. The thought of them closing in sent ice through my veins. I needed a plan. Look, let us find a place to hide, Derek suggested, his voice lower but urgent. We can't let them catch us. Not yet. We pressed forward, my mind scrambling to piece together our desperate labyrinth of escape. A glimmer caught my eye. Just ahead was a gnarled tree with a hollowed trunk. A moment later we were inside, crouching close, our breath stilled to the softest whispers through the crevices. I could hear them. Shouts. Orders. Their voices rising in a crescendo of anger as they fanned out in the woods. Their footsteps crunched against leaves, the sound creeping closer with a heart-stopping inevitability. I squeezed my eyes shut, focusing on the silence within the tree, praying they wouldn't notice us. Derek, I murmured, suddenly aware of how close we felt in that cramped space. What's going to happen if they find us? I don't know, he confessed, his voice shaky. But I can't go back there. I can't let them take me. An unsettling realization gripped me. The fear in his voice wasn't just about them finding us. It was about something deeper, something he feared more than these men. Derek, what did you take from that box? I pressed, my voice barely above a whisper. What did you do? I didn't know, his voice cracked. The weight of unspoken secrets hung heavy in the air. I didn't know it would lead to this. Suddenly a flashlight beam sliced through the darkness, illuminating the trees around us. My heart stopped and I bit my lip to stifle a whimper. They were here. Split up. One voice boomed, commanding the others. We'll flush them out. Derek. I hissed, fear clawing at my throat. We have to get out of here. Now. He nodded, fear flashing in his eyes, and together we edged back out into the night. The darkness swallowed us whole again. Each step felt surreal, as if we were moving through a nightmare. Then a sudden scream echoed nearby, piercing through the night air. It was a sound of terror, a cry that made my blood run cold. Did you hear that? Derek whispered, dread replacing his earlier bravado. What was that? I murmured, heart racing, a cold sweat breaking out on my skin. The answer flickered through my mind, unsettling and chilling. What were we really running from? Little did we know the woods held more than just shadows, and whatever had awakened with that box was hunting us now. Could we survive the night, or had we unleashed something we couldn't put back? I pushed out of the hollow tree, the darkness wrapping around us like a shroud, both comforting and suffocating. My heart hammered in my chest, loud enough that I could barely hear anything else. The scream from before hung in the air, twisting my stomach into knots. I could hardly process it, but one thing was clear. We weren't just running from men. Derek, we have to move, I urged, glancing back at the path we had come from. Shadows shifted, and my every sense screamed that something was not just close, it was hunting us. We slipped deeper into the woods, branches scratching at my arms as if trying to hold me back. Every crack of a twig sent jolts of panic through my veins. What if they catch us? I whispered, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Derek's face went pale. We won't let them. They can't find out what I took. What did you take? I pressed, the urgency clawing at my patience. My mind raced with possibilities. Whatever it was, it had triggered this madness. I swear you'll understand when it's over, he promised, his voice trembling. Just trust me. Trust. In that moment I didn't know if I could. But there was no time to dwell on doubt. Ahead, something shone faintly, a glimmer of light beckoning us through the trees. I motioned for Derek to follow, the instinct to flee overpowering everything else. As we moved, I could feel the chill seep into my bones. The air buzzed with something beyond just fear. It felt electric, charging the atmosphere with anticipation. We reached the clearing, and there it was. A small, decrepit cabin, its windows darkened like empty eyes. It looked abandoned, yet something urged me to believe it was alive with memories, maybe even secrets. We should check it out, I suggested, my mind weighing the risks. But when I glanced at Derek, the sheer terror in his eyes sent a wave of dread through me. Derek, we don't have a choice. We can't keep running. With every shaky step toward the cabin, I felt both drawn and repulsed. At the porch, Derek hesitated. We might not be alone in there, he warned. Then we'll be ready, I said, steeling myself against the urgency of our situation. We can't let fear paralyze us. We creaked open the door, which groaned like a beast disturbed from slumber. Dust motes danced in the faint moonlight spilling through the broken windows, swirling and shifting ominously. The wooden floorboards sagged with age, threatening to splinter beneath our weight. Inside, the cabin felt claustrophobic. Items lay scattered, a rusted knife, a cracked picture frame, tattered curtains that fluttered like ghosts in the corner. A sudden rustle behind us made me spin around, my breath hitching in my throat. Did you hear that? Derek's voice was a tight whisper, eyes darting nervously. It's just the wind, I said, but even as I spoke, dread settled into my bones. The cabin felt more alive with each echo, alive in a way that made me shiver as we moved deeper into the murky interior. An overwhelming sense of being watched crept over me. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the fear. There has to be something here, a way to know what we're up against. Just then the floor creaked loudly, and a shadow loomed in the corner of my eye. I turned, heart racing, ready to fight or flee. But instead I stumbled back, crashing into Derek as he froze, eyes wide. What is it? He gasped, panic flooding his voice. On the wall, a series of symbols glowed faintly, casting an eerie light. The markings were strange, jagged, almost alive. Then it hit me, the very same symbols I saw on the box he'd opened. Derek, what is that? Fear coursed through me, intertwining with anger. What did you bring us into? His expression morphed from fear to realization, a dawning horror that twisted his features. I think we might have awakened something we shouldn't have, he muttered, backing away. The air around us crackled, and a low growl resonated from the shadows. My heart dropped. It was no longer just men hunting us. Run! I cried, lunging for the door, pulling Derek with me. Whatever was inside that box had followed us here, and with it, the hunt had only just begun. But just as we reached the threshold, a rush of cold air blasted through the cabin, extinguishing what little light remained. What would emerge from the darkness? The darkness swallowed us whole, a thick blanket that cloaked my vision. I stumbled, Derek's grip tightening around my wrist as we lurched outside the cabin, my heart racing like a wild stallion. Where do we go? He gasped, breathless, his fear mirroring my own. The night felt deeper, the trees looming like sentinels watching our every move. Just run was all I could manage, urgency replacing reason. There was no plan, only the instinct to escape whatever had been unleashed. I bolted into the woods, branches slashing at my skin, but adrenaline dulled the sting. Behind us, a guttural growl echoed. Louder this time. I glanced back, half expecting to see something monstrous, but the shadows were just that, shadows. The fear of the unknown was worse than the thought of whatever lurked behind. Derek! I shouted, trying to maintain my grasp on reality. We need to get out of here. Whatever we unleashed in that cabin, it wants us. Did you see those symbols? Derek's voice was distant. He was losing himself in dread. What do they mean? I don't know. Panic surged within me, threatening to suffocate. We can't stop to figure it out. Suddenly, the ground beneath us trembled, creating a deep rumble that felt like a warning. I paused, fear gripping my throat. What was that? Derek's eyes darted around, scanning the dark woods. They're coming. We have to hide. We dashed behind a clump of trees, hearts pounding in unison. As I pressed my back against the rough bark, I could feel the chill of the night seep in, an omen of the chaos lurking just beyond. Do you hear that? Derek whispered, voice hardly audible yet thick with terror. I strained my ears. Noise swirled through the trees, a low hum mixed with something primal, almost like chanting. My skin prickled as the sound intensified, vibrating through the air like a heartbeat. It's coming, I breathed, panic creeping back in, clawing at my thoughts. Whatever it is, it's close. The growl returned, louder than before, reverberating in the hollow of my chest. Shadows moved, coiling through the trees, twisting and writhing. Time felt warped. Every second stretched painfully. Maybe we could circle around the cabin, Derek suggested, though I could hear the doubt in his voice. Are you crazy? I shook my head. That's where it was happiest. It might be waiting for us. We stayed silent, seconds feeling like hours, my heart drumming in my ears. But then came a rustling, a disturbance in the underbrush that made us both freeze. Suddenly, a figure broke through the thick dark, its outline rough and distorted. I squinted, unwilling to believe what I was seeing. The creature moved with unnatural fluidity, a blend of shadow and flesh, but its glowing eyes were unmistakably alive with intent. Derek, I whispered hoarsely, my throat dry. What is that? It must be, he trailed off, eyes wide in disbelief as it crept closer, its breath fogging the night air. The creature stopped, tilting its head as if it could sense our fear. It let out a low howl, an eerie call that split the darkness around us. Run! I screamed, and we bolted again, not looking back. The underbrush around us became a blur, my heart pounding in sync with each explosive step. We cut through the woods, branches tearing at our clothes, our feet slipping on the damp earth. But the howl echoed behind us, a constant promise that we weren't alone. Through the trees I spotted a glimmering light, a chance, an escape. It seemed brighter, welcoming us, urging us to get there. Over there. I pointed, drawing on whatever strength I had left. As we raced toward it, I realized with terror that the light was emanating from the next clearing. But something felt off. It was too bright, too inviting for this nightmare. Is it safe? Derek called, his voice edged with doubt. Do we have a choice? I yelled back, my voice breaking. The clearing drew closer, the shape of the light taking form. Then as we burst through the last line of trees, my heart sank. The glow came from an altar, adorned with the same jagged symbols that had glimmered in the cabin. No, I whispered, a chill cascading down my spine. Behind us, the creature let out another ear-piercing howl, the shadows converging like a storm. And then, the altar began to tremble, sparking with energy. Something was awakening. Derek! I shouted, but it was too late. The night was alive around us, swirling with energy as the very ground hummed beneath our feet. What would rise from that altar? We had awakened something far worse than we ever anticipated. All we could do was prepare for the unimaginable. The air crackled with a tension that felt almost electric. Derek and I stood frozen. The altar loomed before us, its symbols swirling with ghostly light, making the darkness around it seem insignificant. A deep rumble echoed from the earth as though it was angry at our intrusion, angry at our very existence. What did we do? Derek gasped, his voice thin and shaky, barely above a whisper. I don't know. I cried, pure desperation rising in my throat. But we have to stop it. The glowing symbols pulsed, rhythmically lighting up the cleft of the altar. The air sang with the vibration of power. It became increasingly clear that something was awakening beneath our feet, and our time was slipping away. Maybe we can. Derek's voice trailed off as a loud thud reverberated behind us. It was the creature. It had caught up. We turned just as the hulking shadow emerged from the gloom. Its form twisted grotesquely, rippling as it stepped closer. The glowing eyes focused on us with a hunger so palpable, it made my stomach turn. It seemed as if it thrived on our fear, fed off that very essence. Back to the trees, I yelled, pulling Derek with me. We darted away from the altar. Our feet thundered across the damp earth, heartbeats syncopating with the growls that followed. The creature was toying with us, letting us run. Branches clawed at our skin as we raced through the underbrush, the night thickening around us. The howls from behind felt like a nightmare unraveling, echoing through the woods like a twisted song. Every ounce of instinct screamed at me to keep moving, to not stop. Where do we go? Derek panted. He was running out of breath, and so was I. Anywhere but here, I shouted back, glancing over my shoulder trying to gauge how far behind it was. In a brief moment I lost my footing, tumbling to the ground. Panic surged. I had to get up. I had to keep going. I scrambled to my feet just as Derek reached down to help me. Let us go. But when I looked up, the creature had drawn closer. The glow of its eyes felt hot against the cool night air. It pounced, the world spinning as I tried to evade it. Derek cried out, and I felt the pull of something ancient, as if the earth itself had stirred in response to the chaos we had inadvertently caused. We stumbled into a shallow ravine, clawing our way up as the growl echoed just behind. Stop! A voice cut through the cacophony of howls. We paused, panting, trying to catch our breath. Out of the darkness before us emerged a woman, clad in tattered clothing adorned with symbols like those on the altar. She stood defiantly, a glimmer of hope against the dark chaos. You must listen to me. Who are you? Derek gasped, leaning against the rocky edge for support. No time for questions. Her voice was urgent, almost fierce. You've awakened a force none can control. The altar was meant to seal it away. You've made a grave mistake. What are we supposed to do? I pleaded, fear bubbling to the surface once more. Can't we fix this? The creature had slowed now, prowling closer, its eyes fixed menacingly on us. We must perform the ritual again, she said, voice steady. But I could see the flicker of fear in her eyes. But I cannot do it alone. You need to trust me. Trust you? I shot back, anger hot in my chest. You're just as much part of this, why should we? Before she could respond, the creature lunged, and we all instinctively scattered. Derek and I ducked behind a rocky outcrop, but the woman stood her ground. Get to the altar, she shouted. I'll hold it back. What? I screamed. No, we can't leave you. But before I could argue, the woman began to chant, a haunting melody that struck at the very fabric of the night. The creature hesitated, confused by her words, its growl fading. Go, she yelled, urgency cracking in her voice as her eyes locked onto mine. With a heart heavy with dread, I grabbed Derek's arm. We have to do it. We have to try. What if we don't make it back? He asked, terror flooding his gaze that I didn't answer. All I could think about was the darkness clawing at our heels. We raced back to the altar, pulsating with an energy we could barely comprehend. And I felt an overwhelming sense of dread creeping closer, like a miasma of despair. Let us finish this, I shouted as we reached the altar. I felt the ground shudder again. The woman's chant reached a crescendo, the creature thrashing about, held back by her words. Now we need the symbols, I called to Derek, desperately searching for a way to activate the sealing powers. Tremors rippled beneath us, and I knew time was running out. The end was closing in as the creature screamed in fury. What price would we pay to seal it back, to contain the darkness we had unleashed? The altar glimmered, inviting yet ominous. Could we find the inner strength needed to confront this nightmare? Or was it already too late? The pulsating energy of the altar surged around us like a living thing, and I pushed through the swirling fear that clawed at my insides. With trembling hands, I peered at the symbols carved into the stone, each one radiating a sickly light that felt both enticing and terrifying. I could feel Derek's breath quickening beside me, a cold sweat glistening on his brow. "Do you see anything?" he shouted, his voice strained. "Not yet," I panted, racing against time as the ground continued to tremble beneath our feet. "Wait. There." I pointed at a series of glyphs, intertwining in a way that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the chant echoing from behind us. "Which one?" Derek's face was tight, panic etched in every line. "Maybe the one that looks like a snake?" I suggested, but doubt gnawed at my thoughts. Would it even matter? Every second felt like an eternity as the creature roared in protest, the woman's chant faltering as the sinewy form of the beast twisted and writhed. Wild and furious, we stepped closer to the altar, hesitating for a moment as the glowing eyes of the monster flickered and darted toward us. "Help her!" I screamed, feeling a surge of anger and desperation surge through my veins. "If we don't do this, we'll lose her." Okay. Derek's face was etched with determination, and together we reached out to the symbols. My fingers brushed against the cold stone, and I felt warmth bloom beneath my touch, a pulse spreading like a heartbeat through the altar. It's alive," I gasped, feeling the connection to something ancient. Derek positioned himself at another symbol, focusing all his energy channeled into the stone as I forced myself to remember the chant I could barely comprehend. It's a call for help," I murmured, the words spilling out as I tried to mirror the woman's rhythm. But confusion flickered in my mind. What if we couldn't remember it correctly? "Just keep going," Derek urged, nodding. "We can't let her down." With a frantic breath, I dove deeper into the melody, letting it wrap around me. The words felt foreign yet familiar at the same time. I could see the creature struggling against the hold of the woman's voice. Fury etched into every feature. A deafening roar erupted behind us as the creature thrashed once more, and the woman's voice faltered. "You need to hurry," she cried out between gasps. "I can't hold it with weakened spell, it's fighting back." "What if we mess it up?" I blurted, my heart racing against doubt. "It's our only shot," Derek shouted, his voice cutting through the night. Then came a chilling silence. The forest held its breath. I could feel some ancient power building within the altar, and all at once I knew we were running out of time. Panic rose as the creature clawed at the ground, desperation in its monstrous growl. It seemed to feed off our fear, drawing closer as if it wanted to snuff out any shred of hope. "Concentrate," I hissed. Together now. Just then, the altar erupted with light, a shock wave of energy blasting from its center, and we were thrown back. Air rushed out of my lungs, the night erupting in blinding brilliance. I was disoriented, aware of Derek's frantic shout, but the world around me felt dreamlike. The symbols glowed with an intensity that illuminated everything, but we were still unprotected. My heart raced. "Finish the ritual," the woman roared, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "Don't give up." I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline pulsing through me as I looked into Derek's eyes. We were tethered in this, our fates intertwined in a battle against the shadow that loomed behind us. Can we complete the ritual in time? Will we lose everything we've fought for as we face the monstrous reality threatening our existence? The altar's energy crackled more violently, the beast behind us roaring like thunder, and the air shimmered with the weight of our fate. Would we find what we needed to push through? Or would the darkness consume us both? The blinding light encased us, swirling in frenzied patterns before settling into a dim glow. My mind struggled to shake off the fog, to process that the altar's brilliance was somehow pulsating in rhythm with the monstrous beast behind us. "Derek!" I shouted, fear clawing at my throat. I found him, disoriented but alive, his eyes wide as he refocused on the symbols. "We need to stay together." He nodded, teeth clenched in fierce resolve as he stumbled towards the altar, the energy still crackling around us. The symbols on the stone pulsed like a heartbeat, beckoning us to follow the rhythm. I gripped Derek's arm as we approached. "Can you remember what she was saying?" I asked, desperately trying to rouse fragments of the mysterious chant buried in my mind. "Think so." He closed his eyes, and it seemed as if he drew strength from deep within. It was about binding the creature, that much I know. But the words, they feel slippery, like I can see them but can't grasp them. A guttural roar shattered the tense silence. The creature was close, its form writhing in the shadows. It felt impossibly powerful, like an omen of the end. The woman's voice echoed through my head, urging me to finish the ritual. That S when I realized something, a spark of memory ignited within me. I think I can recall part of it, I stammered. It was about fear being overpowered by light. That S what we need to remember. My heart thundered. Yes, the light, we have to channel that, Derek said, his voice gaining momentum as the spark kindled in his eyes. We reached toward the altar together, poised to enter the unknown. Fingers hovering over the symbols, I counted them silently. 5, 4, 3. With a deep breath, I closed my eyes and let the sound of my heartbeat guide me. I could feel the chant in my bones driving me to speak. With light we bind what is dark. With unity we break the spark. The air shifted, the altar surged, and Derek followed suit, his voice melding with mine. In fear we find our strength, in shadows bring forth the light. Suddenly, the wild roars of the beast escalated into a cacophony of defiance. I felt pressure build around us, ensnaring us between the altar's power and the creature's rage. My muscles tightened, and my breath quickened, weighed down by desperation. The light from the altar flared and dimmed, as if it was struggling against the growing chaos. Then came a jolt, a blast of energy from the altar surged through us, pulling us into its whirlpool. We were yanked off our feet, the ground vanishing beneath us. A tsunami of sound drowned out all other thoughts, leaving only the melody of our voices, entwined in the spell we were conjuring. Keep going, Derek shouted, and I could see determination etched on his face. I couldn't falter now. By the bond of blood and spirit we unite. My own voice rang louder than I expected, echoing out into the night, and then a crack happened, reverberating through my bones. I opened my eyes to see the symbols reacting, glowing brighter and fighting against the darkness that the creature brought forth. But then a figure emerged from the shadows, twisted and monstrous, with gnarled hands and wild hair. A reflection of pure malice. My heart raced uncontrollably. Derek, we can't let it break through. We have to. But the creature lunged, its eyes gleaming with hatred, and as they locked onto us, a feral howl erupted from it, shaking the very ground we stood on. Panic surged in my chest again, overwhelming enough to raise the stakes even higher. Do you think we can? But before I could finish, the beast lunged for the altar. We were at the edge, teetering between light and darkness. Could we truly push back against this storm? Would we unravel the horror or succumb to the horror? As the towering figure of the creature bore down on us, I felt my grip on Derek slip, and I knew the real fight was only just beginning. What would we sacrifice to save not just ourselves but everything we cared for? The roar of the beast echoed through the clearing, shaking the very ground beneath our feet. Adrenaline coursed through me like lightning as the malevolent shadow lunged towards us, and all semblance of thought drowned in the panic surging within. Derek! I shouted, our voices strained against the ensuing chaos. We have to finish this. In that moment, light burst from the altar, wrapping around us with a shimmering glow. It flickered like a heartbeat, and I could feel its energy calling to us, as if inviting us to summon our own strength against the horror converging upon us. I grasped Derek's arm tighter, feeding off his resolve. We can do this. With a deep breath, I closed my eyes, letting the words of the chant flow through my memory. With light we bind what is dark. With unity we break the spark. Derek followed suit. It was wonderful and dreadful, the magic swirling around us, crafting a fragile shield against the night's encroaching darkness. We faced the creature together, our voices forging a pathway between the earth and the heavens. Suddenly a blast shook the air, and I felt the altar respond with a pulse that sent shockwaves through my entire being. It's working! I gasped as the beast hesitated, wincing under the brilliance of our words. We can't stop now. The shadows writhed, the creature's glowing eyes reflected its anger and bemusement as it struggled against the ether pulling at it. It was held back but not for long. The pressure of terror pressed against my chest, but it only ignited a desperate strength deep inside. The darkness could not win. Keep going, Derek shouted, urgency racing through his veins. We need more. Trust in the bond. I nodded, drawing on the light, pushing it outward like a wave against the monstrosity. In fear we find our strength. In shadows bring forth the light. The incantation burrowed into my thoughts, resonating through the very core of our beings as we crescendoed together. Bolts of light erupted from the altar with overwhelming intensity, illuminating the clearing and flooding the air with energy. The creature shrieked. Its sound was primal and filled with rage. but it faltered. Almost there, I cried, eyes flashing with resolve. We need to unite. By the bond of blood and spirit we unite. The altar shone like a beacon. In that moment I felt a deep connection to every life tied to this earth, my fears, my joys, all wrapped around the desperate need to protect what we cared for. With that surge of unity, the light erupted higher, forging a brilliant barrier between us and the creature. It howled as if it knew it was losing. In that moment of clarity I understood. The fear wasn't just about the monster. It was about allowing the darkness to take hold. We had to let the light in. Suddenly, the creature lunged forward one last time. But the barrier held strong, shimmering in brilliant light. A great cracking sound echoed through the air as if fabric itself was tearing, the energy rippling outward. I held Derek's gaze, a silent agreement passing between us. We would fight together. The woman, the guardian of the light, was now visible, blending into our collective energy. Finish it, she urged, her voice slicing through the noise as if spurred by a shared vision. We drew deeper into the pool of energy. Together we shouted, what is bound by blood begins a cycle anew. The light surged forward, and in that moment, it consumed the shadows entirely. The creature's roar morphed into a screech of defeat, dissolving as the light enveloped it completely, banishing it back into the darkness from which it came. In a blink, the air stilled. The brilliance faded slowly, leaving only a faint glow around us. I collapsed against the altar, breathless. Derek flopped down beside me, gasping for air. The weight of the moment settled like a thick fog, but it was peaceful. It's over, he whispered, eyes wide as he absorbed the silence that now enveloped the clearing. We defaced the abyss together, and somehow we had won. The woman, encased in a soft aura of warmth, smiled sadly. You've sealed away darkness that threatened more than you know. Your courage, your light, saved not just you but all of us. Overwhelmed with emotion, I turned to Derek, tears escaping. I didn't know if we'd make it, I admitted, breath shaky. But behind those fears was relief, an echo of triumph. A heaviness lifted, and we knew this was not just an escape, it was a new beginning. The shadows may linger, but together we had woven the light back into the world. That as we stood, the wilderness around us quietly returned to life. Birds began to chirp again, the softly rustling wind a new song. The dread of betrayal faded, replaced by the profound realization of our strength together. We were not alone anymore. And that moment struck deep. Our lives had intersected in ways we never imagined, but through the shadows the path forward opened up. Before we turned to leave, one last thought crossed my mind. What will we do from here? Derek, a smile daring to emerge, replied, we keep on living, supporting each other. No more hiding. And as we marched away I realized we had the power now, the power to take back what was truly ours. With every step, a feeling of hope filled our lungs, breathing life into a new chapter. The darkness had tested us, but together we had rewritten our stories. Now here's your moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next incredible story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Every like truly makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What did you think of this epic conclusion? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this finale. Your support means everything.